Welcome to the Build, Tell, Sell podcast, where we have behind-the-scenes conversations about the art of brand building, marketing, and sales strategies with creative industry insiders. I'm your host, Pel, of PELNYC. Stephanie Sogé is founder and creative director of Sogé Studio. She literally brings color to some of the biggest brands on the market. Her company develops textile prints for various international brands such as Nike, Karl Lagerfeld, and Ralph Lauren, and many, many more. She found herself transitioning from fashion design to doing patterns and prints out of necessity. That is now her business. This interview talks about how to color outside the lines of your initial career path and make your passion your purpose. Steph, thank you very much for taking the interview. I really appreciate it. So let me ask you, what is your current position and where are you at?
Right now, I am the creative director, owner of Sogé Studio, and I am in Brooklyn, New York in my apartment.
And so what is your studio? What service do you actually provide?
Sogé Studio, we're a full service textile design studio. What we do is we basically take art from an idea concept and we bring it to life in terms of showing it to our clients on fabric, and they take that print, they adopt it in their brand, and then they sell it in the retail stores, wherever they want to do. So basically we are the creators, we're the people that you don't know about. Our business is very niche. Like when you put on a garment that has a print on it, you don't know how that artwork got created. You know, you think that if you bought something at Calvin Klein and it has this beautiful floral print, they made it at Calvin Klein. That's not the case. Typically they buy the print from a studio like myself. It's me and a couple of talented designers that we create the art, and then we just showcase it. So we're always creating, forecasting, and bringing it to the clients.
So when I did children's wear, that was the first time that I've ever saw somebody come in with a bunch of prints.
Yeah.
Actually, they came in with, repeat prints, like what you said, but it was like children's stuff like dinosaurs and dump trucks and all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm so used to developing that artwork for myself. Like even working at 10 Deep, I was doing like a lot of the patterns and stuff like that. And to see that somebody was just doing this, that was their business coming, I was like, how are they making money? Like, why don't they just have the art department do this? It was just so strange.
You know what, when you're sitting there and seeing it, you see it as strange. Like, okay, we could do this, we could, handle it in here. But when you're in an office, in an art department, you stop and start so many times. Like your focus isn't truly on art, I believe, the whole day. Because when I was working in a lot of the fashion offices, I would be working on a design for a team, and then they're like, okay, tweak this a little bit, tweak that, then I have to stop, and then I have to go in a meeting, then I have to do a technical package and all these things. So I didn't have the opportunity to just sit and create and develop.
And focus.
Yeah, and just mainly focus on this one, artwork. It was just a stop and start all day long. So when you think about it, not that, that much of a crazy concept. What we do is we're basically forecasting. We're basically saying, like, you know what, we're working a year ahead, and we're like, you guys are going to need X, Y, and Z, and we're going to deliver it, and we're going to try to deliver it in a different, style aesthetic. And that may, intrigue something with our client. When they sit and they see the art, they're like, okay, so-and-so couldn't do this. They didn't have this hand, we're getting this art, artistic hand from this studio. So that's what we try to do. We try to just come and bring you some fresh, dope art that, your team isn't doing.
So I know that you worked in actually designing apparel first.
Yeah.
So what are some of the brands that you actually worked for?
I worked for Karl Lagerfeld, Vera by Vera Wang. I worked for the House of Darion. I worked for, LL Cool J when he had his brand Todd Smith. I worked for, other private label companies. I dibbled and dabbled in a lot of different brands because I worked at this one company where I was part of a launch team. So when all, these celebrities wanted to create a design label, they came to the company that I worked for, and we would basically take the idea and then launch it. Like when our sister Rodriguez did something, I think it was at like Walmart or Target, so we were just like the launch team.
Oh, so you was launching brands at various tiers, whether it was low end going
Or
on up in price
yeah,
point.
yeah.
Oh, wow. That's
So
interesting.
I
So
got to learn. What's up?
I said, that's interesting, but what made you make the transition from designing apparel to only wanting to hyper focus on doing
Pat.
textile? Yeah.
Yeah, so I was working at one company, and I remember just the CAD department taking really long to get a print done that I had requested. And I said to myself, you know what? How about if I created this? Let me see if I could sketch, this idea. And I did it, and I said, oh, I kind of like this, and I said to myself, maybe I could try to teach myself this. And the beauty of where I was working at, I asked people questions and they didn't hold any of their, talents in a box. They said, you know what, Steph, you're asking this question, I'm gonna give you the answer. If this is, use a Wacom tablet, use this, use that if you wanna go this route. And then the financial crisis hit, and when the recession hit, the boss that I had at the time told me, well, you could either take a package or stay here and work on the men's team. And I didn't want to do that. So I took my chance. I said, I'll become a freelancer. So I started freelancing. And when I went and I worked at the House of Darion, I was going in there just to do, design stuff. But then they started asking me to do graphics. And I was nervous, but I said, you know what? Yeah, I could do it. And I took the task. I did a couple of artworks, and I had a friend, Danny. He was just like
Danny
pushing me
Garcet?
along. Yeah, he was pushing me all the way. He's like, yo, Steph, you could do this. You could do this. Focus on this. And he gave me like a big push to keep on staying in the graphic kind of world. And I just started freelancing. People would ask me to do stuff. I was on YouTube trying to learn stuff at night. I was
Oh,
sketching.
wow.
I'm not, I didn't come from a textile, degree. I didn't know, the whole ins and outs of watercolors, what mediums to use and all this stuff. So I was just experimenting with it and seeing how it would go. And then I landed this one job freelancing, and it became this long freelance. It was like a couple of years, and they dismantled the art department. So after they dismantled the art department, I said, you know what? I'm not gonna do this again, work at another company. Let me just start a studio. Let me do what the guys who come in with the suitcases of prints do.
Yes.
And you know what I'm talking about. And I just started from there. I just took a chance. The companies that I freelanced at, I worked at, were my first clients. I didn't have the money to put any of the prints on fabric to showcase to them during my appointments. I had it on paper. They were receptive to it, and that's how I started it.
So you actually draw, or do you do
Yeah.
everything on the computer? So you draw.
It's a mix. It's a mix of hand drawing. The iPad Procreate is a beast. You could do so much on that.
Yes,
Where
Lord.
people think that, I illustrated that. I took a lot of time where I'm just like, nah, I learned Procreate. I know how to
Yeah.
use the tool, but obviously you can't do everything digitally. There is a beauty by doing things with your hand.
True
So it's
indeed.
a marrying of hand digital compositions.
Well, when I visited your studio some time ago, I was amazed by how you actually was doing stuff and the amount of hands-on and
Yeah.
experimentation that you were doing. And I was amazed by that. Dial back a little bit. When I first met you, it was actually at an art show through Danny, who
Yeah.
introduced us, and I think it was Art Tech Andrew's art show.
Yeah.
And when he told me like what you was doing textile wise, I just looked at you like you was an anomaly. Because it was like, here goes this person doing this. I know I knew of this gentleman by the name of Graham Fowler, and
Hmm.
he's super talented British guy. He had a shop uh downtown where he sold a bunch of vintage items, but it's like old Rolexes. You know, he'd have like some fantastic clothing, but he had a studio in England where
Uh-huh.
him and his when he was married at the time, him and his wife had a brand called, I believe it was called Timley Fowler, and they used to do the same thing,
Yeah.
right? They were doing the same thing, and actually that brand, what's the name? Robert Graham, that clothing
Yeah.
brand.
Program. Yeah.
He actually started it, Graham Fowler, right? But he was ultra talented. Went to his studio in London, and he's experimenting and all of this stuff. So when I heard that you was doing that, I was like, wow, like you like doing this textile design, and I didn't know that you was actually designing clothing
I
before that.
yeah, I designed clothes. I thought I was gonna be like the next Tom Ford, and
But didn't you have
you
your
know,
own clothing brand as well?
yeah, I dabbled in it for a little bit, and then I learned that when I was doing it, I really didn't love constructing garments, that whole aspect of it. I really just fell in love with art, color. That it's crazy that it happened by chance, and it was something that my gut just said, go this route. Just drop the brand, don't further develop it, go this route, because it was like, clothing and handbags that, with prints on them. And I said, pause. We have to go just go to the patterns, go design, prints and see what happens. And, I just went with my gut with that.
So how would you define your design aesthetic?
All right. So my design aesthetic is my prints have movement in it. It's something that I I personally, people probably think I'm crazy. The designers that I've worked with in the studio, that okay, this girl's crazy, because I'm always just like, the prints need to move and tell a story while they're moving. If that flower is there and is moving with this leaf, it needs to just have this beautiful just movement, and you don't want things to be stagnant. So I don't like stagnant stuff, and I like things that have color. It's not that it needs to be vibrant colors, but it needs to be harmonious. It needs to have highs and lows in the color. So when it comes to my design aesthetic, it's definitely color and movement. Those are my two trademarks. Clients tell us that all the time, that Sogé Studio prints always have great color and movement. And I didn't quite understand what they were saying until I really sat and developed more. And I was like, yeah, I'm like, you're all right. One guy told me you can't teach color. So with the designers, I'll look over their stuff to make sure that colors are right, because colors are everything. You could have an ugly pattern, but if the colors are good, somebody buy it.
What's your favorite color?
Me, I would say blue.
I mean, come on, there's
There's
mul-
all types of blue. I know from us as designers what kind of blue. I would say like
okay,
a
that's
cobalt
fair.
blue. Yeah.
What Pantone number is that? Just joking.
19-3595 TC.
People
No,
will be
but that
like,
is a blue. That's a blue though.
"Oh, I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that."
That's more. I think it's like more of a navy. That one, like a midnight navy, maybe. I
You
don't
know
know.
what's scary is knowing those numbers. So, when designing, you have to have these numbers, these codes to tell the manufacturer. And as a designer, you start to memorize these numbers.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it starts to get a little weird. What do you actually look for in new talent when you're getting a new designer to develop patterns for you?
I look for first off energy, and it's not before I even look at that art. It's really sussing out their energy. Like, can you mesh with mine? Are you happy, or like, who are you? That's what I'm trying to figure out. And then I'll look at their artwork, and their artwork, I feel like it just needs to stand out. It needs to not be dull. It needs to, like what I was saying before, tell a story. Tell me who you are, when I'm looking at your art. Did you mix your colors well? Did you, what do you focus on? Because sometimes you need somebody with a specific hand, because we do so many categories. So if I'm looking for somebody that does only ethnic prints, that has that paisley bohemian hand, then if they stand out and if they're a star, then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go with you. You have the, you have that personality, you have the hand, so I'll go with that person. And then other designers, I've done at the beginning, a lot of green designers that didn't know anything. So you could kind of mold them in the Sogé way and trying to extract what they're good at and how that can blend with the studio. So that's a beautiful thing when you see that happen, but that's a hard ask, to do sometimes for me, because it's a lot more work teaching somebody that's green, the business and what we do.
Got you. So how do you actually go about marketing your services?
Well, it's a bit of everything right now. Instagram, you always have to push Insta, but for the business that I'm in, it was the trade shows that were the biggest marketing push, because that's how I was building a lot of new clients. And with that clientele, it was sending them, newsletters, like these are the new prints that are going out and this is what we're doing. So for me, it was more doing email pushes, and in the email, the banners, the flyers that we have will have new artwork on it with an artwork code. So, right when things were starting to shift, I just said, let me just send an email blast out to a couple people. And I was able to sell 2 prints just from this email blast. So that's and it's, a little 4x4 little image, and a client goes, is that one still available? And I said, yeah, it is. And so she bought that. And then we had another appointment from there. Then she bought 2 more prints. So I definitely think a email marketing campaign is important. Instagram, I try our best to, push out Instagram posts, but you don't want to push out so much of your artwork, because I really like to keep sometimes the artwork private, in terms of it's for our clients, it's for things that are going to be on the floor a year from now. If I show you all of our prints and what we're thinking and doing right now, I don't think it's fair to our clients, that I'm letting the world know that we're working on this animal watercolor print. I want our clients to do that privately, that it's not all seen on Instagram, because so many people, are now designers just from Instagram, and they will look, they will troll, they want to see what you're doing. Then they're going to say like, okay, Sogé's doing this animal watercolor print, then I'm going to do that. And I'm going to put that on my Instagram. So I noticed from a lot of my competitors, all their Instagrams are the same prints, same hand.
Got you.
Usually,
So how do you differentiate yourself? I mean, utilizing Instagram as a tool, how do you actually differentiate yourself on that platform?
Well, what I've been trying to do, I'm honestly, to be honest with you, I'm still in the process of figuring out our Instagram voice and what story do I want to tell all the time on Instagram. So a lot of times I'm trying to go more of like verbiage meets patterns. So that's what I've been doing a lot more of, instead of just doing a fashion figure with a pattern in it, because that's what everybody else is doing. So now I'm trying to go that route.
All right. I know that you're also rebranding your website, and what are some of the things that you're doing? I mean, we're in a very digital time right now, even more hyper focused on it. So what are some of the things that you're doing to use that as a marketing platform?
So right now with the whole rebrand is, well, the reason why I did this rebrand is because there's a little more time on my hands right now to do it. And when I started the company, it was just a lightning bolt that struck, and I just did, and I never really stopped and said, oh, what's the brand's aesthetic, color, this, that. I just went straight out the gates and was figuring out through this time. And then now, as I know certain things that I want to do, so there's going to be a color scheme with when you come to the new website, clients are now going to be able to shop online because we've just been doing everything via Dropbox. For our clients, they have a folder and then they could go in, you know, with our trusted clients. So now they'll have the opportunity to have their own account in our,
Oh, wow.
yeah. So they'll be able to go in, pin images on their page and say like, all right, so these are pretty much making their own mood boards and having 6 or 7 prints there. And then they could decide which prints they want to buy from there. So we're doing that. We're going to do a blog, and just everything's just going to be revamped, just new, because when I started, there were certain things that I wasn't doing, and now the company is doing it. So now we're doing full on services in terms of technical packages that, you know, if you don't have a team to do that, my team does that. So we're just
Technical package being what?
for the factory, you know, where we work with a lot of like a lot of clients that will purchase artwork from myself and other people, and they'll ask us, hey, can you set this up to be factory ready, that it could go straight into production, so that artwork will now be able to be placed on whatever garment they're working on. So, you know, we've been doing that for so long, so that's a service that we're now adding now fabric printing by the yard. So there's a lot more things that we'll be able to, you know, cater to now.
So like doing the blog as far as marketing, what prompted you to do that, and what kind of conversation do you plan to have on your blog?
What prompted me for the blog was basically friends and, you know, some clients just wanting to know inside my head, and just, you know, they want to go and see what's going on. And so now it's just going to be, honestly, it's just going to be maybe a diary of the studio. Like, this is what's going on. Some insight, industry insight, because a lot of times people don't have access to, let's say, like a WGSN and stuff like that. So maybe on our blog, we'll be able to provide a little bit of, not, you know, their total information, but how we've taken the information and how we're going to create from there. So I'll put that on the blog. Just, you know, just new stuff that's going on. Keep people intrigued.
My friend actually prompted me to, my friend Mark Williamson from Flamekeepers Hat Club, he actually prompted me to do a blog on my site.
Yeah.
And, you know, I wasn't thinking about any of that. And it was like, I already have the content. Doing this podcast, that's content. Just talking about, you know, industry insight. Because not only letting the industry know about you, literally what you let is the web crawlers from Google know as well. And that's what tells, you know, Google like how to rank you. So I was like, oh, you know, like this SEO stuff.
It's serious.
It's very, very,
it's definitely serious for your brand.
Yes. I don't think that a lot of people understand how important it is, but also how easy some of it is. Like, all of it is in super coding. Like, you just doing a blog and labeling your images goes a long way, you know. So let me ask you, as a kid, what did you used to collect?
Barbies.
Serious?
Yeah, I collected Barbies. I loved Barbies. That was the thing I collected. Because there was a Toys R Us down off of, by the Verrazano Bridge. There was, you know, that big, I don't know if you grew up in New York, there was a Toys R Us like right there off of the Belt Parkway. And we would literally beg my mother, like, can we go? And she would take my sister and myself. And it was like, you have $5. And Barbies were worth at that time, you know, $3 to $5, and would collect them. I'd have the convertible that turned into a pool, like all these different things. That was as a child. But
Barbie was like a Kardashian back in the day.
Yeah. And then we would color the Barbies to make them black.
Really?
There were no brown Barbies. So we take our little Crayola markers and just start painting them brown.
Oh, wow. Do you have any Barbie still?
Nah, not one.
When you go out, I bet you're going to be like, maybe I should get a Barbie for the office.
Yeah, maybe.
What are some of the greatest misconceptions that you actually had about sales?
that everybody would like your art. That was one of the things that I went in there. You know, sometimes you would think your art was fire and you would have a client that would tear it apart. And so I had to build a tough skin with sales in terms of art is subjective. Not everybody's gonna love your design aesthetic, and you just have to stay strong and keep on pushing. And in turn, you know, it's just like you may not get a sale today, but that print that person passed on, somebody else is gonna like and is gonna purchase it. I learned that what I design right now that I'm thinking clients are gonna buy, they're usually not ready for. And you know, it's a little disturbing that you're pushing these new ideas, but sometimes there's reservations from clients that they're not ready for that, and so it takes some time. Those are some of the things with sales that, you know, and when I started, I was the designer, I was the salesperson, everything all in one. So I definitely learned that. Oh, and because you know in our business we go in the offices and do appointments. With sales, I learned that you want to make sure you're going in there before lunch, like 2 hours before lunchtime, or 2 hours after when you think your client is gonna had eaten lunch, because people are hangry. Like
Yeah,
at
yeah,
12,
yeah, yeah.
1 o'clock, that's the time that you never want to go and sell prints.
Oh, I probably don't want to go try to sell anything.
Yeah, you don't want to sell a thing when people are hangry, even at the trade shows, when our clients haven't eaten and they're sitting there. So I know that always have a snack to give them if they look like they're going to pass out.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah,
Smart. No, that's
yeah,
smart. Do you use sales reps?
yes. Well, I have a sales associate. He's an employee of the team. He basically, Jonathan, he's amazing. He, you know, has been with me for 2 years now. So I don't show the collection anymore. He shows the collection. He's based in the UK. So he'll go to, like, you know, H&M to sell our prints. He'll go to Paris for us sometimes, sell within London, and he'll come here to New York and sell the collection. So that's, you know, he handles sales, he handles our appointments with clients, that I don't have to do that anymore. And I could, you know, think of the, you know, creative directing stuff and other operations. We have a sales rep. She's our representative in Australia. And we have a sales rep in Japan.
So what are some of the brands that you actually sell to?
We sell to Nike, let's say in the States, Nike, Speedo, Fila, Karl Lagerfeld. We sell to a whole bunch of brands at Macy's, Old Navy, Victoria's Secret, Vince, Reese, Atem. We have so many clients,
Oh, wow.
Gap.
That's a blessing.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. Ralph Lauren, Perry Ellis. We have tons of clients. I never thought we'd have this many.
How does
You
it
know,
feel to see your product on them streets?
it feels amazing. It's one of the most amazing feelings. The first time I spotted a Sogé studio print on the street, I didn't know how to act. I was in a taxi with my friend, and I'm looking at this lady walking, and I said, "Oh, that looks really familiar." And then I said, "Oh my God, that's my print that she's wearing." I screamed out the window, said, "I made that print!"
And everybody turned to the crazy girl in the cab.
Yeah, in the cabin. I feel like because we're in the West Village, so it was totally fine to be a little crazy.
Yeah.
But the lady, she gave me a thumbs up, and you know.
I think that every designer has had that. I've had these aha moments too.
Mm-hmm.
My first article of clothing ever seeing on the street, and also it happened to be something that we ran, and Justin Timberlake wore it when I was doing RP back in the day, when he was still within sync, and I was blown when I saw this thing walking down the street. So I could only imagine like how that must have been for you. How is selling in the trade shows in Europe different from doing so in the United States for you?
I prefer to sell in the United States because the pricing is respected. In Europe, you would think that in Europe is the mecca of fashion and this is where it's at. It feels more like a bargain. You know, clients are coming to the table, hey, I want this print for X, Y, and Z amount. And we're just like, no, you got to fight. You know, it feels like a bit of a struggle at times in Europe. But then when you have the clients that respect the art and respect, you know, how long it took and the company will pay that price, then that's a rewarding feeling. But doing trade shows in Europe is a bit tougher than the United States.
Oh wow. I would have thought that it was the opposite.
No, it definitely isn't. The pricing structure is different there. You know, I'm not fluent in a ton of languages, but I know enough to get by in Italian, Spanish, and French that we have, you know, in Europe, we have international clients
Yes.
that I could just, you know, stay strong with the pricing that we're going to keep. Like, no, this is.
Do you actually, while you're out there, do you go out there and do research as well?
Definitely. Because their calendar is a little ahead of the United States.
Yeah.
So what I could do is I could take images of what's hitting the floors, what you see the deep discounted sales are, the shops definitely, you know, and build a little trend report that, you know, you could send to clients, say, you know, because with fashion, clients used to be able to have the budget to come to Europe to do market research. So they're not able to do that all the time anymore. So I build a market research for them.
Oh, that's smart. I mean, I never really thought about looking at the sales rack to see what not to do.
Yeah, it lets you know.
Yeah.
Because sometimes what happens is, because fashion is the whole fast fashion business,
Yeah.
it is a lot of waste versus consumption sometimes. So if a celebrity wore something, they'll just like push a certain pattern print, or if let's say Fendi did the whole, you know, retro prints, people are like, okay, it's gonna be retro. But when you go to the stores and you see all that stuff on the discount rack, that lets you know that it didn't trend well, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. That's smart. That's
It
smart.
trended maybe online, but it didn't trend in the, you know, the retail side of it.
In the real world.
In the real world, yeah.
Yeah. What influences your personal purchases?
I don't buy prints at all.
Really?
I'm not a big print person in terms of wearing prints. I love creating them. So you rarely see me with a printed top, pant, or dress on.
Not even a print that you've made?
No, that's the ones that I will only allow myself to wear now.
Gotta rep the brand. I got you.
The brand.
I got you.
I'm at a print show and I have a pattern on. I can't say you got that from I purchased this from that studio next door. No, this is a Sogé print that I'm wearing.
I feel you. But what influences your purchases outside of clothing, like home goods, anything? Like what do you personally look for?
Color. It's definitely color. It's definitely what mood I'm in. You know, in my house right now, I have a neutral kind of palette with a little bit of color here and there. There's definitely blues in here.
Cobalt?
I have that on like 2 pillows. It's like mixed in with some gray. And then my rug is this more of a seafoam, aquish kind of color. So it's definitely color is what steers me into my purchases. If a color has to evoke something within you, people don't probably realize. They probably just say, oh, I like this, but no, it's really color that is getting you to purchase that.
Yeah.
Research has it that blues sell. People are attracted to blue. Yellows for food, yellow and oranges. So if that color scheme is in a lot of places, people are geared to buy food from there. You know, they're attracted to like go inside. So it's definitely color is a psyche that
I thought you were giving me the insight why all the bananas and oranges are always going from this Whole Foods. I got you. Let me just add, so what jewel would you drop for somebody that was looking to get into the textile business?
My jaw like a drop. Never stop. You have to keep on going because it's gonna be tough. People may not like your design aesthetic, but if you believe in what you're doing, you have to keep on going. And if you ever have a doubt in what you're doing, then just stop. There's no reason to keep on. You cannot doubt yourself in this business because right now there's so many people doing this. When you go to social media and you go to Instagram, and to not get frustrated by other people's Instagrams or anything like that, just because their stuff may look, that they've been doing it for a couple of years, that doesn't mean that their pockets equate back to their Instagram. So you stay on your steady track. Just, like a horse with their blinders on. You go straight and you do it.
That's good. And where can we find you at social media and website?
Okay, so Instagram is Sogé_studio, and my personal one is Stephanie Auger. And the website is www.sogéstudio.com.
And Sogé Studios, SOGE Studios,
yes.
Correct?
Mm-hmm.
Got you. All right.
That's my nickname, Sogé.
All right, thank you. I do appreciate the time and insight, and I'm going to go buy something Cobalt, but I'm only going to eat orange and yellow things now. Thank you.
You're welcome, Kel.
Thank you so much for tuning in. The show is available on video at PELNYC, IGTV, and YouTube, and audio in iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Spotify. Please subscribe to the show, and if you feel so inclined, leave us a 5-star rating, and please leave a comment for your thoughts on this episode's insights and ideas. And most importantly, please enjoy life nurturing your creativity.